And those two groups of people, Brian, the people that acquiesce without question and do as they're told, and those that don't want to do as they're told but do it anyway because they fear not doing it, those groups of people together have been responsible for every tyranny in human history. And they're responsible for this one. Fascists don't introduce fascism. There's never enough of them. What imposes fascism is the population acquiescing to fascists. That's why we have it. Not because it has to happen, but because people acquiesce. And that leaves another group, just another group. And they're the people that can see it and refuse to cooperate with it, who refuse to cooperate with their own enslavement, who refuse to do what authority says just because authority says it. And that group has ended every tyranny in human history. And these groups here need to move there, and then we'll start, and it is beginning to happen, this middle group of, I can see it, but I'm frightened of not acquiescing to it. A lot of them are moving this way, not least, by the way, because they acquiesced to the fake vaccine being told it was safe and effective, and they now realize it's bloody neither, and they're absolutely furious that this has been imposed upon them. Those people who were told, if you're going to lose your job if you don't have the jab, I mean, when did that ever happen? They are furious, and they are moving into this camp more and more. But this is what needs to happen. People, and like I say, you can take the mental and emotional states and the self-identities that hold us in the big simulation trap, and you watch them play out here, and they have exactly the same effect. We are controlled here through low vibrational emotion, fear being the major foundation one. Fear of not obeying authority, and the lack of self-respect of actually saying, well, you're telling me this, okay? Evidence? Where's your evidence, mate? Johnson, Whitty, Fauci, Valance, Gates. You're telling me this, okay? Tedros, where's your evidence? These questions are not asked by so many people. Oh, they're telling us we've got to do that. There's deadly virus, and we've got to wear a mask, even though the holes are bigger than what are called viral particles. Or, all that stuff. It's still going to work, and it's going to protect us and stuff.
You told me before that was part of the plan, because when they get you to believe something where there's no evidence, then you lose your respect for yourself and go into a lower vibration.
Well, exactly that.
Right?
See, what is the difference, Brian, between that group of people that obeys and believes authority without question, that which doesn't but does it anyway, and this group that says not doing it, not cooperating? Simple thing, self-respect. You cannot have self-respect if you just take what authority tells you in all its forms without question and without research to see if it stands up to scrutiny. You cannot have self-respect if you know it's a scam, you don't want to do it, but you're too frightened not to do it. This group refuses to concede its self-respect because it says, I can see it and I'm not cooperating with it. And what this group is after, what this whole force in all its multiple levels is after, is our self-respect. I mean, just take the reincarnation thing, right? What I did when I was writing The Trap is I looked at the work of people who take people into another level of consciousness, hypnosis, if you like. And they take them to what they call the between life period, like between human incarnations, if you like. And what I was fascinated by, because I'm always looking for patterns and I'm always looking for common themes everywhere. And the common themes were very, very compelling again. And I'm looking at how they're describing life in the between life state in the human life state in the so-called spirit world. And it's a freaking hierarchy of control when you read it. And that's, again, self-respect. You know, I'm all that is and has been and ever can be. You're not going to tell me that I've got to incarnate into some, back in there. What do you mean? Who are you to tell me? It just goes on. It's the same process. And so self-respect is the bulwark against all tyranny and all tyrannical imposition. Because self-respect says, ain't doing it, ain't cooperating. So what you're looking at is a constant effort by this force to destroy your self-respect. Look, I mean, there's always been morons in politics. I mean, gee whiz. I mean, is that the statement that's most obvious ever spoken? But look at the morons in political positions of political, not real, power around the world.
We both spent a little time close to politics, didn't we?
Well, yeah, but look at Biden. I mean, the man is suffering from dementia. End of frickin' story. Everyone can see it. Elephant in the living room. You look at this guy who imposed fascism on Victoria, Australia, Daniel Andrews. Moron. You look at the people, there was a woman called Kerry Chant in New South Wales, I think it was, who was their chief medical officer. Chief medical officer, you wouldn't let her diagnose acne. Moron. Then you have people like Macron. You have the moron of morons in Canada, Trudeau. And yet, they say this is what's happening, and vast numbers of people do it. Some push back, yes, brilliant. But most people just do it. Oh, they've got to do it because Trudeau's a moron. More than that, the World Economic Forum, by this blatant fascist Klaus Schwab, fronted up by him anyway, they started something called the Young Leaders School, to develop leaders to go into positions of power to impose the agenda of the World Economic Forum, which is the agenda of the cult. Some of the names: Justin Trudeau, Jacinda Ardern, who turned New Zealand fascist, Macron, who turned France fascist. On and on it goes. You see these same names. The leader of Argentina is a graduate of the World Economic Forum Young Leaders School. And they're all moronic. Now, this is where the psychology comes in, because it's all a psychological game. They got to control you psychologically, because that controls your perception, which controls your frequency, which controls if you get out here or not. So, why do they put so many morons in positions of power? Because if they can get you to see, because it's bloody obvious, that a moron is telling you to do something, and you still do it knowing they're moronic, they got your self-respect. Kaput, finished, over. And once your self-respect is gone, what is left? Submission. That's all that remains, submission. And that's why they're after people's self-respect. In all these areas now, they want to make them, and this is why we talked about the first interview we did when lockdown was coming in, that a great consequence of lockdown is going to be economic. It was obvious that it was going to be economic. They were shutting businesses down. Why wouldn't it be? Well, they didn't shut the big businesses down, just the smaller ones and the medium ones. But that was the first shot below the waterline for the world economy, and that's gone on. They're using the global warming hoax to justify the destruction of energy supply. They then have this invasion by Russia of Ukraine, Ukraine being a fundamentally corrupt country, beyond belief corrupt. And the invasion was sanctioned by Vladimir Putin, which, according to Klaus Schwab, Putin is a graduate of the Young Leaders School, according to him in an interview anyway. And so then the West say, we can't have this. It's all a game, it's all theater. We're putting sanctions against Russia. Yeah, okay. So what sanctions are you going to put in for? Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Oh, right. So what you're doing is you're saying we're going to put sanctions against Russia, but what you're actually doing is sanctioning the West. So suddenly Europe is struggling to provide enough energy. It's going to be catastrophic in the winter. So is America. Once self-sufficient in energy, because of shutting down pipelines and other fossil fuel sources, as Europe has done, there's an energy deficit. And then you've got Russia and China, who are just going along and using fossil fuels like before, with no shutting it down at all, and more coal-fired power stations being produced in China. And what has happened? Systematically, the energy price is going through the roof, and we've seen nothing yet.
Inflation.
Inflation. And another thing about inflation, look at all the fresh air, so-called printed money, based on nothing, that was produced to respond to COVID. As I've said over the years, this agenda is to create a world government, and it would dictate to every community, and we would see the end of countries.
Yet so many people have so much fear and stress in their life because of money, lack of money, inflation, controls. If someone's listening to this right now and they want to escape the trap, how do they separate from something when it's almost just a life force to them? You know, they've been given little bits by the government, a little bit more by the government. Now it's being controlled. How do they get into a state of not going back into that low vibration all the time?
Well, I mean, what people have got to start doing is starting to organize among themselves into mutual support groups outside of the system. And this is happening. There are more and more people who are starting to do this. But it's interesting, you watch the sequence. As I've said for years and years, know the outcome and you'll see the journey. Know where we're being taken and you'll see the steps every day in that direction. If you don't know the outcome, those steps seem random and unexplainable. You know the outcome, you can see exactly why they're being done. This guaranteed income, people were being prepared for it by the COVID payments. How many people were quite happy with lockdown because they were getting a good chunk of their income paid by the government? A lot of businesses weren't, they went under, but employees were. And therefore that they were dependent on the government in that period. And it got a lot of them used to being dependent on the government. And now a lot of people, they don't want to go back to how it was before. They want to work from home and all that stuff, separation. And so you can see the progression of preparing people for this dependency state, control state, which is leading to this guaranteed income. And so when you, this also explains to a large extent this apparent kind of contradiction where you have lots of jobs that can't be filled because nobody bloody wants them. And we've got this problem. We're short-staffed. I said to a guy once, well, employ some taller people. But we're short-staffed, and you're short-staffed. Well, there's lots of people who haven't got jobs. Why are you short-staffed? And it's this seed change that's going on from making your own independent income and going to a point where you're dependent on the government. And the more they destroy the economy, which is the whole plan, the more you become dependent on the government. And this is another thing. As well as vastly rising energy prices and the price of everything else, you've got the rising price of food. Food's going through the roof. Isn't it amazing how many food processing plants in America have been destroyed by fire, including small planes flying into them, and how many chickens and other birds in farms have been destroyed in their multi-millions in America alone because of, quote, bird flu. By the way, how do you know they've got bird flu? Well, they tested positive with a PCR test. Yeah, that's not testing for a virus, mate. Just as it wasn't testing for COVID. Because as the creator, Kerry Mullis, said, and I remember I said this, on April the 6th, 2020, the PCR test is not testing for a virus. And the creator, Kerry Mullis, a biochemist in America who won the Nobel Prize for developing it because of what it did was brilliant. But what it didn't do, as he said, is tell you if you're sick or not. And yet they've been using the PCR test not only to test for COVID, that's where the cases have come from, but to test for bird flu, and millions and millions of birds are being killed, tens of millions actually, because they've tested positive with a test not testing for the virus they are supposed to have. And then you ask the question, why is Bill Gates, Mr. Vaccine, Mr. Fake Vaccine, Bill Gates, or Mr. We're all going to die from global warming, Gates, why is he now the biggest owner of farmland in America and food production land? Why has the Dutch government, a guy called Rutte, the Prime Minister, completely owned by the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, why has he just announced that the Netherlands, the second biggest exporter of food in the world, is targeting farmers to destroy them and get them off the land, which is where all these farming protests in the Netherlands have come from? At a time of food shortages and supply chain problems, you are targeting the second biggest exporter of food in the bloody world to destroy its farming base. Why are you doing that? If people depend on you for what's left of the food, you control them. Where food is abundant and cheap, you do not control them. Where energy is cheap and abundant, you do not control them. Scarcity equals dependency equals control. And that's why they're targeting the food chain, they're targeting the energy supply, they're targeting everything. And this is where the global warming hoax target energy, and the COVID hoax, and the war in Ukraine, and all these things come together into the same pattern, to the same end. You look at the solutions to global warming and its centralization of power and control over the fine detail of your life. You look at the solutions to COVID, what was it? The centralized control over the fine detail of your life. And what gives them that control? Energy prices going through the roof, food prices going through the roof, and so on. It's all connected, and it's happening in front of our eyes. And what's great, as I say, is more and more people are seeing it and connecting the dots and realizing the world I thought I was living in is not the world I'm living in.
So ultimately, how do we escape the trap? Being aware of it, then changing your energy, trying to vibrate at a higher energy source. Are those the ways?
For me, Brian, and I've said this, for so long, it's about self-identity. It's all about self-identity. If people go on self-identifying as a human being, not that a human being is not the experience they're having, but the human being is what they are. That they are their name, they are their sexuality, their race, their religion, their income bracket, then they have got no chance of escaping the trap. If they go on believing that there's a level beyond that of understanding, which is that actually we're just having experiences to learn lessons so that we can come to a state of enlightenment to get out of the cycle of reincarnation, then they have got no chance of getting out of the trap. None. Because they'll go on doing that. The way out of the trap is to realize there is no trap. If you self-identify with being that level of spirit that is beyond the simulation, that level of spirit that is all that is, has been, and ever can be, that is eternal, indestructible, and infinite, and that's who you are, and you don't do that as a concept, I conceive myself to be. You live it. You know it. You know you are spirit. You know you are all that is, has been, and ever can be. You know there's nothing you cannot create, manifest. There's nothing to stop you because you are unstoppable. Then you're out here. Then you're out here. And that's the realization this cult and its demonic masters, literally, do not want us to understand.
Because we can all be free from them if we could just get to that level.
Yeah, exactly. That's not, it's not about even getting to that level. That's who we are. It's remembering that's who we are that takes you to that. So, they've sold us, this world is all there is science, which says we're a cosmic accident that came from nothing and goes to nothing. We are just the body, genetics is everything. It ain't. Gotcha. They've sold us religion. You are just a little person and you have to do what God says because God's greater than you and you're just little, you are. Gotcha. I'm God-fearing. Gotcha. Oh, well, no, it's about reincarnation. You have to keep learning lessons to learn how to get out here and get enlightened. Gotcha. I am God. We are all God. We are all infinite awareness, having a brief human experience in a trap to entrap our perception. But I am beyond it all. I am all that is, has been, never can be. Out of here. Trap gone. No trap. That's what they don't want us to know.
And that's always been your mentality, because you always say this at the end of every one of our episodes, David. You're always saying, they can't hurt me. I'm already at this other level. I'm always this other level. I am this energy level. And that's why I'm fearless, and that's why they'll never have control of me. You've always been there.
And that's not because I'm Buddha sitting cross-legged on a mountain or under a tree. It's because I remember who I am and what I am. And that is the same everybody else's.
Right.
Everybody else's. And I said once in one of our chats, I think I looked at the camera or something, And I said to this cult, I'm coming for you. You're not going to succeed. And you can't stop me. And I am. And they can't. And they're not. Know who you are. And it's over. Yeah. Believe who they want you to believe you are. Tyranny.
Yeah. Because they have no power over you when you are thinking that way. None.
They have no power.
Right, exactly.
Their power is the power we give them. Yeah. And we must not fall for the idea, oh, these demons, they're ever so... People are believing it. These demons are ever so powerful. They're not bloody powerful at all. They're a bunch of prats. That's what they are. But they're very skilled at getting us to give our power to them, which they recycle back against us as control and tyranny through acquiescence. That's what they're skilled at, but they're a bunch of prats. Have you seen Bill Gates? You know, is there life on Bill Gates? I see no evidence. Klaus Schwab, have you seen him? He's a pillock, he's a prat. He's a gopher. Oh, Klaus Schwab has got so much... Oh, shut up. We've got to understand where the real power is. It's with us. And if we stop giving it away, they have none. You see, the very fact that you are in a state of perception that you want control over others, you want power over others, you get off from their suffering, indeed you feed off the energy of their suffering, that's all part of it. When that Morpheus character in the Matrix held the battery up and said the machines have turned humans into one of these, that's exactly what's happening because they're feeding off our energy. Low vibrational energy, and they can only feed off our low vibrational energy because they're in a state of low vibrational awareness. And so if you want power over people and you get off on people's suffering, you are in a very low vibrational, very limited state of stupidity and ignorance. That's not powerful. The way they've done it is that they are hoarding knowledge about how this all works, and they're keeping it from the population by selling us an illusion. And so this cult has a major symbol, which is the all-seeing eye. You see it on the dollar bill, you see it on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States. You see it many, many different places, the all-seeing eye. It's a single eye, right? Very appropriate. Because nothing is more descriptive of this cult and its demonic masters than in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. They are the one-eyed man, and they control us only by making us blind. When we awaken to two-eyed, three-eyed, third-eyed, infinite awareness of self, this bunch of prats, it's over for them. And they know it. The great terror they have is humanity waking up to its true nature. That's the great fear it has. And it works 24/7 to suppress us from remembering our true state. Right. And you know, another thing, Brian, that people are saying now, not only that it's obviously an anti-human agenda. Oh, do you think that could be because it's a non-human force that's behind it? I think that's possible. They're also saying this, interestingly. You may have heard this. It's being said more and more. It's a spiritual war, isn't it? Well, I don't like using the word war because what you fight, you become. But it is a spiritual tussle between a force that wants to hold us in spiritual ignorance and a force beyond that that is encouraging us and teasing us to awaken to the fact that we are not the I we believed we are the infinite I. And when we believe that, when we know that, when we live that, the game is over. And that's what this force is terrified of. Right. And that's why these people are so pathetic. I mean, that Bill Gates, he's got so much power. Oh, do leave off. Do leave off. He's a bloody gopher. When the Rockefellers say jump, he breaks the Olympic high jump record. When that bit above the Rockefellers say jump, the Rockefellers break the Olympic high jump record. I mean, these are all gophers. They're not powerful people, but they're very skillful at getting us to give our power to them, and that's how they control. We stop doing that, it's over. Even now, at this late stage, it's over.
And every child is born into this world at that higher state of consciousness. It's just they're indoctrinated into this, like you used to call it, a postage stamp mentality with all of these rules and all these things, and then they become the perfect little piece of their organization. But like you said, it's not like we have to get there. We're already there.
We're already there.
Right. We've just forgot it.
There.
We've given our power away.
Yeah.
We've been convinced we're something else, but we're there.
We are in the land of forgetfulness. We have forgotten our true nature. And 24/7 we're being encouraged to forget and to remain in a state of self-identity amnesia. And that's what awakening is. What is awakening? Well, I woke up. Well, no one woke up. None of us have woken up. We are waking up. It's a process. And if you think you've got it, well, there's always more to know. Remember that, Socrates, etc. So what is awakening? It is breaking out of only processing reality through the five senses and seeing that there is more to us than just the body, and then seeing that there is more to us than just the soul if you go that far, and away you go. And what happens is that when you think limitation and you believe limitation and you self-identify with limitation, limitation is a low vibrational state because your perception of self is so limited, so your frequency is limited by your perception of limitation. And so those kind of people, they'll say things like, nothing ever happens in my life. My life's ever so boring, every day is the same and all that. Yeah, because that's your perception becoming your experienced reality. But as you expand your self-identity, honestly, I see the gurus and I see the people, the spiritual teachers and all that stuff. And they make it sound so complex. Oh, you have to go on a quest and you have to do this and you have to do that and then you do this and drink the right tea. I've got no problem with people doing that if they want to do it. But it's complicating a simple process. Self-identity dictates your experience. Simple as that. You think little me, you'll have a little me life. Simple as that. And it goes in other ways too. Why? Because as you expand your self-identity, your sense of the I, and you move to a point where I am a point of attention within infinite reality, then I am infinite reality. As your self-identity expands, your sense of self, who you are, so your frequency expands. And as your frequency expands, you're moving into higher and higher levels of awareness, which that expansion of your own awareness, that's where it's taking you. And suddenly you're tapping in to levels of knowledge, awareness, intuitive knowing, insight, which isn't available on the lower frequencies. And what do they do when you tap into them and you say, hey, this is what I've discovered? They say, you're frickin' mad, you're a lunatic, you're dangerous. And all you are is tapping into levels of awareness that they're not tapping into. Not because you're special or more important than them, but you've remembered who you are. You are changing your sense of self-identity, and they are not. So they're an eddy going round and round. Nothing ever happens in my life. It's ever so boring. Every day is the same. When you go into levels of expanded awareness, no second is the frickin' same, never mind every day. Because you are tapping into levels of insight, awareness, possibility that are only available in these expanded higher frequencies of energy consciousness. And anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. Ethel on the checkout, you can frickin' do it. Anyone can do it. But they don't want us to know we can do it. Right. They want us to think, I'm just little me, I've got no power, I have to do what authority tells me. Why? Because they know best.
Does it take effort to do it? Is it hard to do it? Do people have to push themselves to do it? Is it easy to go back to a little reality? Is it hard to go to an expanded reality?
Well, I would just say to people, just take a month and everywhere you go, everything you do it from the perspective that you are infinite awareness, all-knowingness, having an experience. Doesn't mean you don't do the things that humans do, but you do it from the perspective of this is not me. This is an experience that me is having. Do it for a month. It'll change your life. Yeah. You'll never be the same again. Yeah. If you do it and consciously do it, you'll never be the same again. Because you'll realize that because of the insights you get, because of the intuitive knowings that you get, by the way you feel, you will know that the you thought you were is not who you really are. Just a month. But it's not about every now and again. It's everything you do. I am infinite awareness, looking into this world, having an experience. The experience is not me. This is me. And it will change your life.
And as soon as you try to get pulled back into that human experience, you have to resist the temptation.
Yeah.
Right. And everything's going to trigger you to try to pull you back into that.
This is the point, Brian. What happens is when you start, you get pulled back in. Mm. But the more you go, no, hold on, no. And the less you get pulled back in, and the less you get pulled back in until you are here most of the time. Everyone gets pulled back in. Yeah. Something happens and you get, but you're here most of the time. And it's a completely different world. Why? Because you are actually looking into this reality from another reality when you get to that level of expanded awareness.
Right. And that's how we escape the trap.
That's how we escape the trap. And if people think we do it by stockpiling weapons and fighting the enemy, that's just what they want. It's just what they want. It's very much on the basis of electricity. Electricity needs polarities. It needs the positive, it needs the negative. And in the cult's version, this simulation version, it needs the imposition and it needs the resistance. Right. Then they got you in the battle. That's where they want you. Right. But if you don't resist, you just don't cooperate. You don't fight back, you just don't cooperate. Because if enough people don't cooperate, there's nothing they can do. What do they become? They become one hand clapping. Because there's no resistance making the electrical circuit which empowers them. What you fight, you become. Right. Instead of that, just don't cooperate with it. Don't fight it, just say, no, not doing it. Right. Not doing it, nope, not doing it. If enough people do that, it's over.
I was at a conference this last week at the Excel Center, and so many people came up to me to thank me and you for putting all that information out in 2020. Like so many people. And I think back to that first conversation we had in March and that second one we had on April 6th that was second largest live stream in the world that was subsequently banned. And everything you said there and how much of it became true.
Yeah, and this is the thing. People say, how do you predict the future? Well, answer is I don't. I say what the agenda is, and if nothing comes to intervene to stop it, it becomes the future. Right. That's what I've been doing. I've been saying this is how they want to change the world. This is the way they want to take the world. And unless we intervene, that's what's going to happen. And so it's happened. And people think you're predicting the future. You're not. You're predicting the plan. And the time cut is here now, late in the day, but it's here, that we stop predicting the future and we start creating a different one to what this cult wants. And we do that by not acquiescing, because we got into this mess by acquiescing.
Right, right. We just remember we are infinite energy having a brief experience called being human.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do.
Yeah, but we're not human. We are an experience called human. We are consciousness having the experience.
Right.
And we're not a soul. That's another experience. We are the spirit beyond all of it. That is beyond even experience, because it's all knowing. It's all that is, has been, and ever can be. How can something be all that is, has been, and ever can be? When it's all possibility. All possibility. That's what we are, all possibility. Just waiting for a choice on which possibility we want to manifest. What happens in the simulation is an external force makes that choice for us. That's why we're where we are. Start making your own choices and overriding the imposed choices, and the game is done, and we're all out here.
David, I thank you for being you.